Hello. So today we're going to be talking about safeguarding. Before we begin, some of the topics we cover today may be difficult to hear. If at any point you feel overwhelmed, pause, take a breath, reach out to someone you trust. Your well-being matters. Every day, charity and community workers step into the lives of others. They knock on doors, they run activities, they offer support, comfort and connection. Most days feel familiar, routine, predictable. Conversations flow easily, people smile, sessions unfold just as planned. But sometimes something feels different. A change in someone's appearance, a shift in their behaviour, a tone, a silence, a look. A feeling that something is not quite right. And in that moment, you may be the only person who notices. This training is about those moments, the moments where your awareness, your instincts and your willingness to act can make all the difference. I'd like to introduce you to Sarah. So Sarah is a community worker. She builds relationships, supports people and helps them access activities and services that improve their well-being. But Sarah is not a safeguarding investigator. She's not expected to diagnose a problem. She's not required to prove that abuse is happening. Her role is simpler and more powerful than that. Sarah follows 4 essential steps. She notices. She pays attention to what she sees, what she hears and what she feels. Small details matter. She listens. She listens without judgment. She gives people space to speak and space to be heard. She records, so she writes down the facts clearly and accurately. No assumptions, no interpretations, just what happened. And then she reports. She shares her concerns through the correct safeguarding pathway, ensuring the right people take the next steps. She doesn't need to have all the answers, she just needs to follow the process. Because safeguarding isn't about solving everything alone, it's about noticing, listening, recording and reporting so that the right help reaches the right person at the right time. So, what is safeguarding? So safeguarding means protecting a person's right to live safely, free from abuse, neglect, exploitation and harm. Abuse can happen to anyone, any age, any background, any circumstance. It can happen in a person's home, within relationships, online or out in the community. Most people think safeguarding is only about children, but it's so much more than that. And I'm of the view that we've actually made safeguarding too complicated. Safeguarding is about common sense. Community workers like Sarah are often the first to notice when something isn't right. They're trusted, they're present, they see the small details that others might miss. When I worked at the local authority, sometimes you might call at a home and find a child sitting in a cold house. Or someone might walk into the reception and the child with them is crying, saying they're hungry. Little moments, little signs, little pointers that may indicate a much bigger issue. And that's why safeguarding awareness matters. Because noticing these small changes and knowing what to do next can make all the difference. So Sarah, or you, may be the only person who visits regularly. You might be the only person who notices those small changes. So Sarah's first visit of the week is a cold Tuesday morning, and she's visiting Mr. Ahmed, who she's known for several years. He values his independence and he usually takes pride in looking after himself and his home. But today something feels different. Sarah takes a moment to observe. Sarah notices that the house feels cold. Doesn't seem to be much food in the cupboards. The walls are looking a bit damp, and Mr. Ahmed is wearing his coat indoors. These could be signs of neglect or self-neglect. Sarah doesn't make assumptions. She records what she's seen and follows the safeguarding process. So the 4 simple steps whenever you have a concern. You notice, what can you see, what can you hear, what feels different. You listen. She gives the person time and space to speak without judgment and without asking leading questions. She records the facts, what she saw, what she heard, and what the person said, using their own words where possible. And then finally she reports the concern to her manager or safeguarding lead. Sarah remembers one important thing: she doesn't need proof to act. Next stop, Sarah's at the kids' club, where she noticed that Archie seems a bit nervous and jumps at noises. He's not looking very clean and she can see a bruise on his neck. Children don't always know that what is happening to them is wrong. Sometimes they believe their behaviour is normal, sometimes they've been told to stay silent, and sometimes the person harming them is someone they trust. Abusive adults can use words to hurt a child, constant criticism, insults, or telling them they're worthless or not good enough. Emotional abuse can be invisible, but its impact is real. Children may also experience neglect. Their clothing may be dirty. They may have untreated illnesses. They may show signs of physical harm, bruising, a cut lip, or a black eye. Sexual abuse can be committed not only by adults but also by other children. The signs are varied and can be subtle or obvious. A child may use overly sexualized language for their age. They may have frequent urine infections. They may have bruising or injuries that cannot be explained. Their clothing may be torn, stained or bloody. They may experience pain or bleeding in private areas or difficulty walking or sitting. There may be an unexplained pregnancy, signs of sexually transmitted infections or unusual discharge. Changes in behaviour can also be indicators. A child may begin using explicit sexual language. They may become shy or withdrawn. They may self-harm, struggle to concentrate, or have disturbed sleep. They may show reluctance to be alone with a particular person. These signs do not prove abuse, but they are signals that something may be wrong, and community workers like Sarah are often the first to notice these changes. Safeguarding is about recognising these signs, taking them seriously, and following the right steps to ensure the child gets the help they need. Later that week, Sarah sees Maria at the community cafe. Maria's normally chatty and confident, but today she's unusually quiet. Her partner answers questions on her behalf and she avoids eye contact, and when her phone rings she leaves very quickly. Sarah asks herself a simple question: what's changed? A single sign doesn't always mean that someone is experiencing abuse, but patterns of behaviour can be important. Sarah considers whether Maria might be experiencing coercive control, emotional abuse, isolation or fear. Sarah doesn't confront Maria's partner. She doesn't investigate. She records her concerns and follows the safeguarding process. Later that day at the youth session, Sarah notices changes in Jay. He's got new and expensive trainers and a new phone which keeps ringing and getting lots of messages, and he seems anxious about replying. These changes don't automatically mean something is wrong, but Sarah remains professionally curious. At my youth club recently, I noticed a young lad who is quite vulnerable arrived at the tuck shop with a new £10 note and was about to blow the whole lot on sweets. I had a little chat with him and suggested to him that perhaps that was too many sweets for one evening and that his teeth would all fall out. But then after we'd laughed a bit, I said to him, "So where do you get the money from then?" And he said, "Oh, a boy on the bus gave it to me." I said, "Oh, that was very lucky." He said, "Yeah, he had lots of money and he was just giving it out to me." Now this on its own may not be a problem, but it could be. This could be a sign that this child or young person is being exploited. County lines, which many of you will have heard about, basically works by drug dealers moving into an area, targeting vulnerable children and making them feel special. So they buy them new phones, new trainers, things that kids want, give them money, and mainly just make them feel good about themselves. But then, once they've actually got them hooked, it starts to take on a more sinister spin. They start to get threatened that they need to do work to pay back the good things that they've been given. So they'll be asked to deliver drugs for the courier. They may start to disappear for unexplained time away. This is because they're being told to go on a train and take drugs to somewhere else in the county or outside of the county. So suddenly they're actually afraid. So that exploitation relies on power, control and manipulation. So again, Sarah's role is not to investigate who's responsible. Her role is to notice, record and report. Sarah has visited Tom for many years. He usually lives independently and takes pride in his home. But today when she visits, something is different. There are unfamiliar people coming and going. The house is untidy and feels unsafe. Tom seems anxious and avoids speaking openly. He quietly says, "They're just helping me. I don't want any trouble." This may be a sign of cuckooing. So cuckooing is when a person's home is taken over by others who exploit them. It can be linked to criminal exploitation, drug activity, financial abuse or intimidation. The signs are that a person befriends somebody who's generally vulnerable, gives them drugs or drink or buys them nice clothes. Then when they've actually got them in their employ, they move into their house. They take over their home and they start to use it as a den from where they can carry out their illegal activities. So little signs of things like a house suddenly becoming very busy, lots of activity where they didn't used to be, the grounds around it being untidy, people hanging about looking a bit shifty. All of these can be signs that a person's home has been taken over by others. Sometimes when we're talking about safeguarding, it begins with a disclosure. A person may share something painful, frightening or deeply personal, and they might say, "Please don't tell anyone." So Sarah's role is to remain calm, listen carefully, but she does not promise to keep secrets. She reassures the person that they've done the right thing by speaking up. Sarah's response would be, "Thank you for telling me. I'm glad you told me." She then records the facts clearly and accurately. She includes dates and times, what she observed and the exact words used by the person where possible. She doesn't investigate. She doesn't try to solve the problem. She understands that taking the next step could make a life-changing difference, but she never promises to keep a secret. So the reporting journey is quite straightforward. The first thing is that we notice. What did we see, hear or feel concerned about? We listen without judgment, and we don't promise secrecy. We then record what we saw and heard using facts and the person's own words. We don't sanitize those words. Sometimes people will use words and terminology that is not our normal way of speaking. They may use words that we don't like, but it's important that we write those words down and we don't sanitize. We also don't add in our own commentary like, "I thought he might be a bit depressed." That's not our role. You then share your concern with your line manager or designated person. That's where your job ends, because then it's up to the organisation to follow their safeguarding procedures. The only time that this changes is if somebody is in immediate danger. You always follow emergency procedures and contact emergency services. When we care about people, it can be tempting to try and fix the situation ourselves, but good safeguarding means knowing the boundaries of our role. We don't investigate, we don't promise to keep secrets, we don't wait for proof, and we don't keep concerns to ourselves. Instead, we stay calm, we listen, we record the facts, and we report our concerns promptly. And what I want you just to think about at the end here is, today Sarah may have been the only person who noticed, the only person who listened, the only person who took action. And that could be you. It could be you that the only person who noticed, the only person who listened, the only person who took action. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it informative and helpful. Remember what I said at the start and take care of yourself if the content has caused you anxiety. Now that you've watched it, you need to return to the web page link you were given and take part in the quiz. Once this is completed, you will be issued with your certificate. Thank you.